The land that I'm standing on and all the green land that you can see around me is yet again another bit of green belt which is to go. All that you see, this once productive, fertile, food producing farmland is going. Once again, our politicians, our councillors, county councillors, local councillors have proved that they value our greenbelt land in terms of money only. I don't know whether you'll be able to hear the skylark that's up there. The thing about the development, we're approaching the last week of March. Birds are already setting up territory, that skylark being one such bird. Technically, if that bird has now set up territory and this field is about to be developed, as far as I'm aware, they can't touch it. It's well, at least the last I heard, it was an offence to disturb breeding birds. Skylark's not the only one. There's a pair of buzzards that are obviously holding territory in this area. The area where I am, I'll put a map in here and show you exactly where I am. Just off Abbott Road, the top end of Abbott Road. I think it's the Fox and Crown pub. I'm close to there. Kingsville Hospital is just half a mile down the road. I've known this land for 30 odd years, ever since I moved from Nottingham up to Mansfield. It's always been fields, always been cropped every year. But the last few years it's been left fallow, and when farm fields are left fallow for a number of years, you know what's coming. At least that's my experience. The developers are coming. I'm now a little more than a quarter of a mile, half a mile down the road from where I filmed the opening scene and the potential developments that are going to occur there. This is the Old Pediment Farm, a development that for many years was fought against quite strongly, but ultimately to no avail. The development and sale of the land went ahead, and the developers once again got their way. Here's some more of our food producing countryside and greenbelt land gone. Just at the back of the camera is the A60, the main artery between Mansfield and Nottingham. You can just at the moment see the limits of Mansfield just at the skyline there. Close by is the Shellwood Way, which is a new loop road that they put in a number of years ago. Presently, the building is just the other side of such Shellwood Way. Soon, it'll be here, right up to where I'm standing now. These fields are under, or about to go under development. It's incredible, really, the amount of development that has gone on just south of Mansfield here, and it's still not finished. This field and or there's the other side of that hedge and running over the top of the hill and alongside Thieves Wood to the right of your screen are all to go. We can't keep losing greenbelt land, and especially when that greenbelt land is providing the country with food. With the present scene in the Ukraine and the huge loss to the world of the amount of grain that Ukraine produces, we might need these fields. One of the worrying things personally for me that I don't think people have ever really given a lot of thought to is the fact that we may need our land once again for food production, similar to post-World War II, dig for Britain and all that. All those protected sites currently, those 6 metre set-aside strip field edges, they may all have to go as the need to feed the country becomes a necessity. In the meantime, we're quite intent on building on our countryside. Can't carry on. We can't keep putting new houses up. This insatiable appetite that we have for putting new houses up can't go on. Something has to be done, and someone has to say no more. We can't keep building on the land. Well, I've moved further to the top of the hill in the field that you've just seen me stood talking in. And that looks over towards the turbines of Reneth, and just in the distance there is probably Blideth, if I remember right. The two former mining villages are now fast approaching one another, and Reneth is fast being approached by development from Mansfield from this side. The Reneth bypass, which was put in a number of years ago, is probably speeding up not only the traffic around Reneth but also the development from the Mansfield direction. And the field I'm stood in here and the one just over the next hedgerow are all in line for development. This potentially huge area of new housing that will no doubt go in within a couple of years was another of Mansfield's developments and plans that were fought against. The main reason for putting up a fight against the planning development was the fact that nightjar occur in the woodland of Thieves Wood over to the right. Not just nightjar but other species as well, all will be affected. Thieves Wood will one day be somebody's backyard. But it's not only the land facing east where I'm stood, because even those fields over there, which are still farmed by a small farm, which is rapidly being encroached upon by development, those fields are just as likely as the one I'm standing in now to be developed, probably within the next 10-20 years. One of the problems we have is that small farms find it very difficult to make any kind of profit now. That's why farms are going under at a great rate. The small farms, whereas years ago they could quite easily and happily earn a living, it's now virtually impossible. And when these big developers, armed with cases full of money, knock on the door, the farmers, they can't really turn it down. Here's someone with sacks of money willing to set you up for life if you just forsake your farm. It's a sad state of affairs, but there again, greenbelt land is a sad state of affairs. And here's the peaceful woodland scene that the development here at Thieves Wood will alter drastically. These woods well used by many people, especially dog walkers coming from the Mansfield area. But the beauty of the place will be significantly transformed. But we can't keep encroaching onto our countryside and our habitats. And of course, it's not just housing that's taking up a lot of Mansfield and Nottinghamshire's greenbelt. It's retail parks, business parks, industrial units. They're all in at it. A lot of it unnecessary in my view. A lot of the business parks and retail parks that we've got at the moment, can't fill them anyway. Only a couple of years ago, this, what was then waste ground, once they'd scraped it ready for development. I can remember when this was fields. We're back again to the old folk thing. I remember when all this were fields. Well, I can. It's not that long ago. Then they scraped it and landscaped it pre-development. They created some fabulous habitat. There's a little bit remaining just over there. I might see if I can have a little wheezy wander on that, because I found a few bits and bobs there. Otherwise, a lot of our greenbelt is now given over to this retail and industrial development. How much more do we need? A number of years ago, when I was a care worker, if I'd got a spare half hour on a weekend when I used to be up in this area of Mansfield and towards Renneth, this would be one of my little stop-off points. It's a cracking little spot. It was. This is the last of it. Like most similar sites in the Mansfield area once cleared, the first thing to move in, of course, is silver birch and gorse. It's mostly gorse here. There's also some stands of willow, some from goat sallow, and a small area that used to hold a bit of water. But this is the habitat you get. Great little bit of habitat as well. You could quite easily spend a good half an hour or so just wandering here. There's some nice banks. Did have common lizard here a couple of occasions. Doubtful that it'll remain now. If it is still here, it won't be for very long. The good entomologist or naturalist should always carry one of these round with him, or her, a pot. You never know when something's going to turn up. I'm renowned for finding stuff wherever I go. And that's because I look for it wherever I go. My eyes are always everywhere. Spots like this on pre-development sites are vital for a number of species. They provide a somewhat, unfortunately, temporary habitat for many species. On this bank, apart from the typical Lasius niger ants and Coccinella septum punctata, the 7-spot ladybird, are some mining bees. There's one just here that's settling, but there's a couple knocking around. They look to me to be Andrena flavips, which is an uncommon species, but it's a mining bee that are found on steep sort of temporary banks like this, created during the earth moving process. These kind of habitats, technically, this is dry, sandy, heathland habitat. It's identical to much of the same habitat in Nottinghamshire. But these little sites, once created, unless developed straight away, they allow wildlife and species found on such sites to move in. They can provide an important stepping stone between one site and another. It's just a shame that all this is temporary. Can't we leave just anything alone? The Chief Chaff says no. It's a fabulous example of gorse. And there's a fabulous example of gorse mites on this. All this sort of smokiness comes from apparently quite an unusual or rare, and certainly rarely recorded mite, gorse mite. It's not very often you see it. This is my second time I've seen it here, and I've seen it on the nearby Reneth Heath, only about a mile away. Despite its unusualness and its county rarity status, it'll be gone soon, once all this has been developed. There's a few fields on your right hand side as you look at it. There's a couple of strips of fields and the Reneth bypass that divide Mansfield from Reneth. It's all disappearing so quickly. Even in my lifetime, it's incredible. I don't know what it's like compared to the likes of my father's lifetime. In another 10 or 20 years, I dare say, if I'm still treading this earth, I'll be saying to anyone that listens, I can remember when all this were fields. No doubt I'll get called a silly old fart amid claims of, well, that's progress. Progress my arse. I just see that there's going to be so much development, we're not going to have the capacity as a country to be able to feed ourselves, to produce enough food. Getting like that already. I mentioned the problems in Ukraine, one of the world's largest producers of grain. In the foreseeable future, we're going to have to sort something out to replace that supply and demand. Can't do it if it's all been built on, and we've lost the farms, even the small farms. One day, maybe people will wake up. I don't think it'll be in my lifetime though. I'm now just outside Forest Town. Forest Town more or less ends just down there. And then there's a short distance between Forest Town and Clipston. Clipston is another of our local colliery villages, soon to become a suburb of Mansfield. Such is the speed of development such as this. Probably only about 20 years ago there used to be a great tribe that had a couple of winters down there, that came over from the continent and chose to winter down there. That won't be coming again. This is yet more greenbelt land that has gone. Yet more land, farm, food production that we're going to miss. It was from a small farm that I don't think is operating now, so we can expect more or at least further continuation of this building scheme here, to head towards Clipston. The only thing that's saving Clipston from becoming a sea of sprawling housing development is the Vicar Water Country Park, the old former Clipston Colliery. I've gone deaf again. This is a busy road with several hundred new houses going here and several thousand subsequent new residents. Where they're all going to shop, where they're all going to school. It's not just the housing developments that take up the greenbelt, it's the infrastructure needed to support the new residents. Where will it all end? I'm just a few hundred yards from the last building site that I've just been filming at. This is still Forest Town, and I'm at the side of Newmill Lane. Newmill Lane joins Mansfield Woodhouse up to Forest Town. The field behind me has been fallow for a number of years. It's one of those subtle sites pre-development that you should be aware of. When sites such as this remain untouched, you know what's coming. There has been some tractor activity in here, and I would imagine it's probably to spray this off. There's a bit of an annoying breeze now, otherwise it's beautiful. If I'm still sat here in 5 years' time, there'll probably be some disgruntled homeowner or occupier wanting me to get out of his garden, because I think that all the fields that you can see now are already being primed for development. I think the planning application is already in. Councils are very underhand at this kind of thing. I think the land's already sold, and I think they know exactly how many houses are going to go on this, and I think they'll be here within 5 years. Look at what they're losing. How many acres or hectares of good agricultural farmland. These fields haven't been farmed for a number of years and have been left to go fallow, and you can tell that by the width of the pedestrian path that the dog walkers have made over a number of years. You don't get past that wide within a season. You get quite a beautiful view from up here. If you can have a beautiful view of Forest Town and Mansfield Woodhouse in Nottinghamshire. But if you can, this is it. It looks as though a couple of the fields further down Newmill Lane here are being farmed. But this field certainly isn't. I'll put a shot in a minute showing you Newmill Lane, and it'll give you an idea of what's to come and what's already come. It's not the best of light conditions today, although we've got a clear blue sky. It is rather hazy. In the far distance, the dark sort of flattish mound that you can see is the former Shellwood Colliery. That's another place where you can get a rather nice view. But the road and the traffic that you can see coming up that road on the left hand side of the screen is Newmill Lane, which runs from Mansfield Woodhouse up to the top, up here, up at Forest Town. All the housing, every single house that you can see in that shot and every rooftop is all new since about 1990. Newmill Lane for a long time has been the limit of this urban sprawl. But I don't think it's going to be that limit for long. All the field that you can see in front of you, even off into the distance there towards the former Shellwood Colliery, I think it'll all go. And so I think all the plans are in place. There is a farm down in the valley, down to my left. How long that can be put off and thwart the developers remains to be seen. But I think this field that you can see now is already earmarked. This, at the moment, literally is a green belt of land separating Mansfield Woodhouse and Mansfield from Spine Cop and Market Walsall. But this green belt of land in this part of Nottinghamshire is becoming narrower by the year. All the new development here and the potential new development to come, coupled with development encroaching from the east, from the likes of Market Walsall and Spine Cop, means that one day this greenery in this scene will be gone. I probably won't be here to be able to say I can remember when this was all fields. I think I'll be long gone, probably by then. But if I am still alive, I'll be very quick to tell people. I can remember when this was green fields, my lad. It's a shame that some people seeing this in the future may not even remember these fields being fields. I suppose that's what they call progress.